Outlast 2 is a horror game that has been widely regarded as one of the most terrifying and intense games of recent years. Released in 2017 by Red Barrels, the game is the sequel to the critically acclaimed Outlast, and it builds on the foundation of its predecessor, to create an even more spine-chilling story than the first. From its dark and claustrophobic environments to its grotesque and terrifying enemies, Outlast 2 is a game that is designed to push players to their limits and leave them with a lasting sense of horror. In this video we will explore the game's intense atmosphere, its complex and engaging story, its incredible character design and the ways in which it has pushed the boundaries of the horror genre. Join us as we delve into this twisted and nightmarish world of Outlast 2 and discover why it has become one of the most unforgettable and impactful horror games of recent years. The game's story revolves around a religious cult. They believe the end of the world is near, and it shows the lengths that they will go to ensure their survival. The game follows the story of Blake Langerman, a journalist who, along with his wife Lynn, is investigating the murder of a pregnant woman known only as Jane Doe. While flying over the Arizona desert in a helicopter, the couple's cameraman, pilot, and the helicopter itself are hit by an unknown force and they crash land in a remote location. As Blake searches for Lynn, he discovers that they have landed in the middle of a cult's compound. The cult, known as the Testament of the New Ezekiel, is led by a man named Sullivan Noth, who believes that the end of the world is near and that his followers will be saved. Noth and his followers are not the only danger, as the area is also populated by deformed creatures who seem to be a product of a mysterious disease. As Blake navigates the compound, he experiences disturbing visions and flashbacks of his traumatic childhood. He discovers that the cult has been performing bizarre and grotesque rituals in order to bring about the birth of the Antichrist. The couple is then separated, and Blake is forced to continue his search for Lynn while avoiding the dangers of the compound. Blake is then transported to an otherworldly realm, where he is confronted by a demon who shows him a disturbing vision of his own death. The story of Outlast 2 is dark, disturbing, and filled with horror and tension throughout. The game's setting is designed to be dark, foreboding, and oppressive, with each location the player visits becoming increasingly twisted and nightmarish. The player is first introduced to the game's setting in an abandoned rural area, with torn down houses and rusted farm equipment littering the landscape. The environments are designed to be claustrophobic, with narrow hallways and tight spaces that create a sense of vulnerability and fear. As the player progresses through the game, the setting becomes increasingly disturbing and terrifying. The game takes the player through a variety of locations, including an elementary school, derelict mine, and a mysterious chapel. Each location is designed to be dark, twisted, with grotesque imagery, eerie noises, and unsettling lighting. The game's setting is also shaped by its use of religious imagery and themes. The cult's beliefs and practices are based on a twisted version of Christianity, and the player encounters a variety of religious imagery throughout the game, from bloody crosses to religious iconography. These images are designed to shock and disturb the player while also tapping into their deep-seated fears of the supernatural. The lighting in Outlast 2 is another aspect of the game that plays an important role in creating a terrifying and oppressive atmosphere. The game's environments are often dimly lit, with flickering lights and shadows that create an unsettling and foreboding feeling. One of the key elements of the lighting in Outlast 2 is the use of darkness. The game's environments are often shrouded in darkness, with the player having to rely on their camera night vision mode to navigate. The player is never quite sure what might be lurking just out of sight. Alongside this, the game's audio is designed to create an atmosphere of dread. One of the key elements of the game's sound design is the use of environmental sounds. The game's environments are filled with eerie noises, from creaking floorboards to the sound of distant whispers. These sounds create an unsettling atmosphere, making the player feel as if they are constantly being watched or pursued. While the music is minimal, the haunting melodies almost act as your sixth sense in-game, letting you know when something is chasing you, even though you may not see it at first. Outlast 2 features a range of terrifying and memorable characters, each designed to add to the game's sense of horror and fear. From the deranged cult members to the otherworldly creatures that stalk the player, each character is expertly designed to elicit fear and dread. In this section of the video, I'm gonna deep dive into a few of these standout characters, which in my opinion made the game what it is. Marta is one of the most memorable characters in Outlast 2, a deranged cult member who is both terrifying and tragic. Her appearance and actions are designed to elicit fear and disgust, and her backstory provides insight into the twisted beliefs of the cult she belongs to. Her appearance is grotesque, with dishevelled hair, rotting teeth and a disfigured face. She wields a large pickaxe, which she uses to kill anyone who gets in her way. Her appearance and actions make her an immediately recognisable and frightening character. As the game progresses, the player learns more about Marta and her backstory. She joined the cult as a way to find meaning and purpose, but her already fragile mental state was pushed to the brink by the cult's twisted beliefs. Marta's tragic backstory helps to humanise her character, making her more than just a mindless killer. She is a victim of the cult's brainwashing, and her actions are driven by a twisted sense of righteousness. She appears throughout the game, hunting the player down and trying to kill them with her pickaxe. Her appearance is always accompanied by a tense and foreboding atmosphere, with the player never quite sure when she will appear next. Sullivan Noth is the primary antagonist of Outlast 2 and the leader of the cult that the player is trying to escape from. He is a complex and fascinating character with a twisted backstory and a powerful presence that dominates the game's narrative. Noth is also introduced early in the game when the player hears his voice on a radio broadcast. He is a charismatic and persuasive speaker, using religious rhetoric just to justify the cult's actions and beliefs. His presence looms large over the game, with his image appearing on murals and propaganda posters throughout the game setting. He formed his own cult as a way to seek power and control, using religious rhetoric just to justify his actions and gain followers. Noth's character is complex, with a mix of charisma, manipulation and cruelty that makes him both intriguing and terrifying. He is a master of propaganda, brainwashing his followers. Noth's character is intertwined with the game's religious themes. The cult that he leads is built around a twisted version of Christianity, with Noth portraying himself as a prophet, and his followers as the chosen people. This creates a sense of moral ambiguity, with the player questioning whether Noth's actions are truly justified by his religious beliefs or if they are simply the result of his own thirst for power. In conclusion, Outlast 2 is a game that pushes the boundaries of horror and creates an immersive and terrifying experience for players. The game's combination of psychological horror, intense atmosphere and graphic content come together to create an experience that is truly unforgettable. It's a game that is not for the faint of heart, and it delivers on its promise of being one of the best horror games of all time.